Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. A silver market collapse? Let's explore! We saw some brutal trading, especially on Friday for silver. And of course, we did see silver make its way down from some recent gains that encouraged many of us. Others really didn't expect this dramatic downturn for silver's price. We can accredit it to a mini black swan event that has affected the news cycle, and that is, of course, a new variant of the coronavirus that is making its way through. And of course, I'm talking about how the markets react to that. Don't necessarily want to get into a debate about that actual variant or what is behind it, because there's a lot of data that is still unknown about it. We don't know how serious it is or even if it's a thing. But nonetheless, one thing we know is serious, and it's the reaction of the markets to that news. And it's not just the precious metal markets, but the stock market in general. The Dow Jones was down almost 1,000 points on Friday. And we're going to see what the markets are going to look like tonight on the Sunday Night Market Watch. I do this every week. We watch the prices as they open up in Hong Kong first. And it's something that I've done for quite a while now. So if you can join us for that, we'll see how crazy it might be, or maybe not so crazy. But the question is has these silver markets collapsed, or will they collapse, especially if these fears run high and exacerbate or increase? And that is something that is quite possible as the week makes its way, as we learn more about this thing or how the markets react to this. And that is going to have an effect on gold and silver. As was the case in March 2020, we did see what I would call a small collapse in the paper prices for silver as people run to the safety of cash. I think we saw a mini version of that, along with the mini black swan on Friday, with the prices falling, but I would not call what happened on Friday a collapse like this article from FX Empire said it was. That was shared with me by Doctor Who. They say the silver markets have fallen rather hard during the trading session on Friday, slicing through a major trend line. And that is technical analysis talk here. The market is likely to continue to see a lot of negative pressure as we are suddenly worried about the lockdown trade again. If that is going to be the case, then one would have to assume that the demand for silver will fall apart. After all, silver is an industrial metal, and now that we are threatening the $23 level again, it's getting pretty serious. If it does fall below $23 soon, then it's possible that we could be looking towards the $22 level. That $22 level is an area that continues to show itself as being important. It has been the major, massive support multiple times going back several months. So the market can continue to see a lot of trouble ahead, considering that we are closing at the range for the week. It's interesting to see whether or not the $22 level can hold, because if it does not, it's likely that silver is done and we will see a collapse. Now, that is a pretty big leap in my view in that analysis, because what did we see in March of 2020? We saw silver fall below $12 an ounce. Not 22. So he's making a big, this article is making a pretty big leap to say that the market's going to collapse. And this very well could turn out to be a nothing burger. No one really knows how serious this thing is. And you know how the markets react. There's a lot of psychology in the markets. And it's the perception that is of a fear of a new thing that may be over-exaggerated. And that very well could be the case here. And that being, if that is true, and it turns out to be, we could see silver snap back rather dramatically in the opposite direction. And I'm kind of hoping that would be the case, just for the sake of normalcy in a sense. But we're seeing the gold to silver ratio very high right now. Gold is holding its own in this uncertain time, but silver is suffering pretty dramatically here. And so silver is volatile, and you got to be cautious no matter what. And obviously, it's times like these when you go to buy on a downturn, and it could fall even more. But I do believe silver is undervalued in spite of this, and I think that because of its volatility, we could see new normals as we head out into next year for silver. What are those new normals? Well, I don't think it's anywhere near what we saw coming out of the coronavirus pandemic in March of 2020. I believe we'll see the prices go up. Obviously, there is a big difference in the spot price and the physical price that you buy it for these days. High premiums seem to prevail, but that prevailing high premium is something that we are seeing as more people are stacking physical silver these days, which I think is a good thing. Now, will people get discouraged from that? Potentially so, and that discouragement will mean less demand for silver in these times, and that less demand, if it gets really bad, well, that means the premiums may go down. But I think that most people are pretty resilient that are stacking silver and understand the volatility of the metal. And it's times like these where if you're not buying, you're probably not going to be selling either. And the only way you would sell in this market are for two reasons. Number one is you are just fed up. You've not seen silver perform for you, for your personal situation at the time that you've had it. Or number two is that you absolutely have to for emergency purposes. For an emergency, you need the money, so you need to sell the silver. Those are the only two reasons, and I hope the first reason is not for most people out there. And if it's for reason number two, then that's unfortunate that you're taking a loss on it. But in a sense, that's kind of what silver's there for, as a savings account. And sadly, you're cashing out when the prices are lower if you bought higher. But when you use smart dollar cost averaging, where you buy a little bit less when the prices are high, and maybe a little bit more when the prices are low during the course of the last year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, well, you're not going to take that big of a hit if you need to sell it. But I disagree with this article about it collapsing, but we do tend to see psychology prevails. Psychology is the prevalent mover of silver prices, in my opinion, and I think that's why it's so volatile. Silver is indeed a commodity. In fact, I think one could probably make a very cogent argument to say that silver is seen more as a commodity these days and then as a monetary metal. And I think there's some credence to that. I think the price is reacting based off of that analysis. Well more than over 50% of silver is used as an industrial metal. And then there's a good chunk of it that's used in jewelry and other applications. So I think, there's much less of it being utilized in the form of bars or coins or rounds and that type of thing. This type of silver, you don't see silver, traded as much in that regard. There's a lot that is done with silver in the paper markets. And I think what we saw Friday was people dumping some of their paper contracts. And by the way, we know that there's a lot more derivatives for silver out there than there is the physical to back them up. But I would not worry about a collapse in the precious metal markets. Now, the silver markets are much different than the physical markets, but I believe that probably people are probably panicking probably too much. The market is probably panicking too much about this new variant or the translation of what the news cycle is. Let's put it to you that way. And sooner or later, things will probably work themselves out. But we'll find out tonight on our Sunday Night Market Watch to see how the markets are going to react. My guess is there's not a whole lot more news that's coming out about this thing. But again, It's about how the markets react to it, no matter what that news cycle is. We have seen time and time again that there's an overreaction in the markets to whatever is in the news cycle. We saw that with what happened with Iran and Saudi Arabia. I remember covering that news as it happened on a Sunday night market watch, and we watched gold climb up above $1,600. Yeah, I remember that night very specifically. It turned out that that was not as big a deal as there was the fear of it. The fear drives the markets. It's a massive thing. Psychology, a very powerful thing. But in times like this, we are going to see volatility, especially in silver, as we move forward, and that is par for the course. But we'll find out. We'll see. But as time goes on here, we are getting closer to the end of the year. We're almost at the end of the month here. One more month to go. There's been some predictions that silver is going to bounce back in December. We shall see, but it's becoming less and less likely that silver is going to meet my predictions for the end of the year. I've been very vocal about that in public, about what my predictions are. So I'm thinking that silver, and I'm going to stick with that silver will hit $30 an ounce before the end of the year. Only have just over a month to go. Now, as we get to the waning days of the year, I will probably deny I ever said it and just delete all the videos that I mentioned $30 silver to save face so it doesn't look like I'm wrong. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a good strategy? No, probably would not be. I'm sticking with my prediction. I'm okay if I'm wrong. I've been wrong before, I'll be wrong again. I'm not a financial advisor, though I do give financial advice, and that financial advice is about being safe and secure, and what we can do with that is to save money, don't get into excessive debt. In fact, it's good to not have any debt, but if you're going to have debt, make sure you can pay it off in a timely manner. The best debt to have is a mortgage, and even that you should pay on the principal if you can. And then also to have a little bit of savings, not only in cash, not only in these Federal Reserve notes, even though they are certainly being devalued quicker than we've seen in a number of years, over 30 years now, to the tune of 1% every 30 days. Still good to have some of these on hand as a savings and as a safe store of if you need to spend them very quickly for emergency purposes, but also to have precious metals on hand as well as a savings account for the long term. Long term being the key. Long-term savings, short-term savings. Short-term savings, long-term savings. One is much easier to liquidate. This is much easier to liquidate. This not quite as easy to liquidate. And so there you go. That's my message. That's my financial advice for you. So what are your thoughts about the silver market collapse? And to talk about it, psychology tells us whenever there are days of falling prices of any commodity, and as we've seen in this community, in this case silver, well, the predictions start to move in the other direction. Oh, we're going to see $22 silver next. We're going to see $21 silver. I think it's going to get down to $19. But when the prices go up, we're going to see predictions of $26 silver, $27 silver, $30 silver. Well, you know me, I'm a contrarian, and I still think that we're going to see $30 silver before the end of the year. That's only based off of my hunch. We'll find out. Stay tuned tonight at 6 o'clock Eastern Time when we do the Sunday Night Market Watch. We might even do a poll to see what you guys think about where silver is going to be headed for the next trading week, the end of the next trading week. I want to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I want to encourage you to please rate, please share this video with other members of the community on other social media platforms out there, comment, and subscribe.